Welcome to Speech Speak, the podcast where you improve your English.
Hey everyone, I know a lot of you are working on getting more comfortable speaking in English.
Yeah.
So the video jumps into the difference between understanding English and actually speaking it. And it's something that I think a lot of people experience, where they feel like they can understand conversations or read English text pretty well.
Right.
But when it's their turn to talk,
Yeah. They freeze up.
there's like a mental block there.
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt that kind of hesitation or fear when you're trying to learn something new?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I remember when I was first learning how to play the guitar,
Uh-huh.
I would get so worried about hitting the wrong notes that my fingers would just like lock up.
Oh, totally. I get that.
It's like your brain just kind of freezes.
Yeah.
And the video actually goes into the neuroscience
Mhm.
a little bit about this.
Oh, cool.
And it explains that, understanding a language is actually a passive process.
Hmm.
So think about like listening to someone speak or reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain has time to process the information,
Right.
decode the meaning and make sense of it all.
Totally.
But then speaking,
yeah, speaking.
that's a whole other thing.
It is.
It's an active process
Yeah.
that requires your brain to work in overdrive.
Yeah. Like you're...
It's like you're juggling while riding a unicycle or something.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just receiving information anymore.
Right. You're trying to create it.
You're actively constructing sentences, searching for the right words, trying to express yourself clearly
All at the same time.
all at the same time.
So it's no wonder that it can feel so overwhelming sometimes.
It really is. And on top of that, there's also that pressure of knowing people are listening and maybe judging what you say.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that fear of making mistakes is something that the video emphasizes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all been there, right? Like that self-doubt that creeps in and makes us hesitant to speak up.
Oh, for sure.
Like I know I have.
Definitely.
So it's important to remember that, making mistakes is actually a crucial part of learning anything.
Yeah.
The video even says that everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers,
Uh-huh.
and it's how we learn and grow.
Right.
So it's more about shifting your perspective from seeing mistakes as like failures to seeing them as feedback.
I like that.
Like it's an opportunity to improve.
It's like that saying, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And each mistake is like a chance to learn something new, refine your skills, and get closer to being fluent.
I love that.
Now, the video dives even deeper into this difference between understanding and speaking.
Okay.
And they use a really relatable example.
Oh, cool. What is it?
They point out that it's usually much easier to understand a conversation
Uh-huh.
than it is to like come up with a response.
Oh, yeah.
And especially like a quick, clever response.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Think about it. When you're listening to someone speak, you have time to process what they're saying.
Right.
You can like think about your response,
Yeah.
formulate your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's your turn to talk, all of that has to happen like in real time.
Yeah.
And that can feel really challenging,
Yeah. They really can't, especially...
especially when you're trying to speak in a language that's not your native language.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, it's not just about thinking about what to say.
Right.
You're trying to remember vocabulary, grammar rules, pronunciation,
Uh-huh.
and you're trying to sound natural and confident all at the same time.
It's a lot to juggle.
It really is.
And the video, they use this analogy.
Yeah.
They compare speaking a new language to learning how to ride a bike,
Oh, yeah.
which I think is so true.
I like that.
At first it's awkward and wobbly.
Yep.
You're going to fall a few times.
Definitely.
But the more you practice,
Yeah.
the smoother it gets.
Mhm.
Your brain starts to create these new neural pathways. And the connections between your thoughts and the words you're speaking,
Yeah.
they become faster and more efficient.
So it's almost like you're training your brain to be more agile in English.
Exactly. The more we speak, the more we expose our brains to the language.
Yeah.
And those connections get strengthened, and eventually that leads to better fluency and confidence.
That's really encouraging to hear
Yeah.
because it means that anyone can improve their spoken English with consistent effort
Uh-huh.
and the right approach.
Totally.
So what are some of the specific challenges that the video talks about when it comes to speaking English?
Well, they highlight 3 common things that trip people up.
Okay.
Vocabulary,
Hmm.
pronunciation,
And grammar.
the big 3.
Yeah.
Let's start with vocabulary.
Okay.
What are some of the video's suggestions for expanding our English vocabulary? Well, they really emphasize the importance of learning new words every single day.
Okay.
But it's not just about memorizing definitions.
Right.
It's about actually using those words in context and integrating them into your vocabulary.
Yeah, like instead of just learning the word for apple,
Yeah.
we should be practicing sentences like, I like to eat apples for breakfast, or, can I have an apple, please?
Exactly. Like, it's like learning to cook.
Uh-huh.
You can have all the best ingredients in your pantry.
Right.
But if you don't know how to combine them and create a dish,
Yeah, they're not much use.
not much use, right?
It's all about application.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about pronunciation.
Okay.
English is notorious for having some tricky pronunciation rules.
Oh, it definitely can be. Yeah, and the video gives this great example of how similar spellings can have totally different pronunciations.
Oh, yeah.
And they use the words though and through.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, these kind of inconsistencies can be a huge headache for English learners.
They really can.
It's tough.
I remember struggling with the difference between beach and, well, the other word,
Oh, yeah.
for a long time.
For sure.
Because it's such a subtle difference in pronunciation, but it makes a huge difference in meaning.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So the video recommends listening really closely to native speakers
Okay.
and trying to mimic their pronunciation.
That makes sense.
And that's honestly one of the best ways to train your ear and your tongue to recognize those subtle sounds.
Totally.
And then finally, we have grammar.
The dreaded grammar.
Yeah.
What does the video have to say about that?
So the video acknowledges that grammar mistakes are super common,
Yeah.
especially when we're speaking,
Yeah.
It's easy to get flustered and to forget the rules or to just make a slip of the tongue.
Right.
But it also reassures us that with practice,
Yeah.
those grammar rules become more ingrained.
Yeah.
And we start to develop a more intuitive sense of what sounds right.
Yeah. It's like learning a musical instrument.
Oh, yeah.
At first you have to think about every note, every finger placement.
Uh-huh.
But the more you practice,
Yeah.
the more those movements become automatic.
You just kind of know what to do.
And you can just focus on creating beautiful music instead of worrying about hitting the right notes.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And just like with music, the key to mastering grammar is to practice, practice, practice.
Exactly.
So now that we've talked about some of the challenges,
Uh-huh.
I'm curious to hear what the video suggests we can do to actually improve
Yeah,
our spoken English.
Let's dive into some actual tips.
Yeah, let's get into some actionable advice to help us start talking with more confidence and fluency.
Sounds good. All right, so we've been talking about why speaking English can feel tougher than understanding it.
Yeah.
And this video we're looking at has a ton of practical tips to help you bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of those strategies for boosting your spoken English skills.
Yeah, I'm all ears because, the video talks a lot about daily practice,
Yeah.
but life can get pretty crazy.
It can.
So I'm wondering, what kind of time commitment are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Do I need to, block out hours every day to see any progress?
Well, the good news is the video actually addresses that. And it says that even short bursts of daily practice can make a big difference.
Oh, it's good to know.
Yeah, it's about consistency rather than quantity.
Oh.
Think of it like exercise,
Yeah.
You don't need to run a marathon every day to stay in shape.
Right.
Even a quick walk or a few push-ups can have a positive impact over time.
Okay. That's a relief to hear.
Yeah,
I can definitely commit to finding a few minutes each day
for sure.
to work on my English.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the daily practices that the video recommends?
Well, one of the simplest but most effective ones
Okay.
is the good old mirror exercise.
Oh, yeah.
I know it might feel a little silly at first, but talking to yourself in the mirror
Okay.
is a great way to build confidence and fluency
Okay.
without the pressure of an audience.
I actually used to do this
Really?
when I was practicing for presentations in school.
Oh, nice.
And it really does help you get comfortable with the sound of your own voice
Yeah,
and work out any awkward phrasing.
totally. And when you're practicing in the mirror,
Yeah.
you can really focus on specific things you want to work on,
Uh-huh.
like your pronunciation of certain sounds,
Okay.
or experimenting with different intonations, or just getting used to forming sentences naturally without overthinking it.
Yeah, it's like having your own personal rehearsal space
Exactly.
for spoken English.
It really is.
The video also mentions finding a language partner,
Oh, yeah.
which I think is so valuable.
Yeah, connecting with a language partner can be a game changer.
Uh-huh.
And the video suggests apps like HelloTalk and Tandem,
Yeah.
which can connect you with people from all over the world
Cool.
who are learning languages too.
I've heard great things about those apps.
Yeah.
It's like a social network, but for language learners,
Exactly.
which sounds so cool.
And it's a fun and supportive way to practice speaking with someone who gets the challenges
Yeah.
of learning a new language.
Totally.
And it's a great way to make new friends.
Yeah, and learn about different cultures.
Absolutely.
And don't forget about the power of listening and repeating.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The video talks about listening to English videos, podcasts, or even songs.
Yeah,
And just repeating phrases out loud.
that's one of my favorite ways to learn.
Yeah.
It's like immersing yourself in the language and
Okay.
absorbing the natural rhythms and intonation.
And I find that when I do that,
Yeah.
I start to notice all these like subtle nuances of pronunciation and phrasing
Right.
that I wouldn't necessarily pick up on if I was just reading text.
Absolutely. It's much more engaging and enjoyable
Yeah.
than just passively listening or reading.
And you can choose content that you're actually interested in.
Exactly. Like movies, music, educational videos, whatever you like.
Yeah.
And if you want something a little bit more structured, there's always the option of using language learning apps and YouTube channels.
Yeah.
They offer a lot of exercises and activities and even personalized feedback.
Yeah, those digital tools can be so helpful.
Yeah.
Especially for people who prefer a more self-directed approach to learning.
Right, like having a virtual language tutor.
Exactly.
Available like 24/7.
Yeah, but practice is just one part of the equation.
Right.
The video also gets into the importance of mindset and confidence building.
Oh, yeah, I was hoping we'd talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, myself included, struggle with those mental blocks that can really hold us back from speaking confidently.
Yeah, it's a super common challenge.
Yeah.
And the video has some really helpful tips for overcoming those.
Okay, let's hear them.
So, one of the most interesting ones
Okay.
is to try and think in English as much as possible.
Oh, sounds really hard. I know it might seem like a lot.
Yeah, how can we even begin to do that, like shift our whole inner dialogue
Right.
to a different language?
It definitely takes effort, but with consistent practice,
Yeah.
it can become more natural.
Okay.
Just start small.
Yeah.
Maybe try labeling things around you in English.
Oh, okay.
Or just having simple thoughts to yourself in English.
So instead of thinking, I need to make coffee,
Yeah.
I could think I need to brew a cup of coffee, but in English.
Exactly. It's all about training your brain
Mm-hmm.
to operate in English mode.
Okay.
And the more you do it,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes to think and react in English without having to translate everything in your head.
So it's like creating a mental shortcut
Exactly.
that lets you bypass that translation step
Uh-huh.
and just like access those English words and phrases more directly.
Yeah, and the video also talks about body language and gestures.
Oh, yeah, body language.
Yeah,
Because communication isn't just about words.
right?
No, it's not. It's also about like your tone of voice,
Right.
facial expressions, and body language.
And those nonverbal cues can be really helpful.
Especially when you're still working on your fluency.
Yeah, they can help you bridge those communication gaps.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to use your hands,
Yeah.
your facial expressions, your
Yeah.
whole body
Right.
to emphasize your message
Yeah.
and connect with whoever you're talking to.
They'll like that.
It can make a big difference in how you're perceived and how well your message is understood.
Another tip that stood out to me was focusing on learning phrases
Yeah.
instead of just individual words.
Oh, that's such a good tip.
Because it's about recognizing those like natural chunks of language
Yeah.
that native speakers actually use.
It's like instead of just learning the word coffee,
right?
learn the phrase, "Can I have a cup of coffee, please?"
Yeah.
It instantly makes you sound more fluent and natural.
It's like you have these prefabricated building blocks
Yeah.
that you can just snap together to create more complex sentences. It takes the pressure off of having to like construct every sentence from scratch.
Exactly.
And finally, the video reminds us that, staying positive,
Mm-hmm.
being patient,
Mm.
and celebrating your progress
Yeah.
is super important.
Absolutely.
Learning a language is a journey,
It is.
and there will be bumps along the road.
For sure.
But with the right attitude and consistent effort,
Yeah.
we can achieve our goals.
You can.
It's so easy to get discouraged when we make mistakes
Oh, yeah.
or we feel like we're not progressing as quickly as we want to.
For sure.
But it's important to remember that every step forward is a victory,
It
no matter how small.
I love that.
And those small victories add up over time.
They do.
So we've talked about the practical steps,
Yeah.
the confidence boosters,
Yeah.
and the importance of mindset.
Right.
But what's really interesting is that the video kind of subtly hints at something bigger
Uh-huh.
than just language learning.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. It touches upon this idea that overcoming the challenges of speaking English can actually teach you valuable lessons that go way beyond language.
Whoa, Okay, what do you mean? So we talked about practicing pronunciation
Mm.
and, finding a language partner.
Uh-huh.
But what's this about bigger lessons?
Well, think about the challenges you face when you're trying to speak English.
Okay.
Like that fear of making mistakes,
Yeah.
the hesitation to speak up,
Hmm.
that feeling like you're not good enough yet.
Right.
Those are all mental barriers that
Yeah.
we create for ourselves.
It's like our inner critic
Yeah.
is holding us back
Exactly.
from taking risks and putting ourselves out there. And we
Hmm.
get so caught up in trying to be perfect
Yeah.
that we just end up paralyzing ourselves.
And that's where the video's focus on positivity and patience really comes in.
Yeah,
It's about shifting our perspective from self-doubt to self-compassion.
I like that.
Give yourself permission to be a learner.
Yeah.
Embrace the messy process of making mistakes and celebrate those small victories along the way.
It's almost like we're learning a new way of thinking,
Yeah,
like a new approach to challenges in general.
exactly. And that shift in mindset is what I find so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's about developing a growth mindset
Okay.
that you can apply to any area of your life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's learning a new skill or taking on a tough project
Right.
or just stepping outside of your comfort zone.
So by working on our fear of speaking English,
Yeah.
we're actually developing resilience and problem-solving skills and a more positive self-image.
Exactly. We're proving to ourselves that we can do more than we think we can,
Yeah.
and we're building confidence that goes beyond language learning.
That's a pretty powerful takeaway from a video about speaking tips.
Right? It's really cool.
Yeah, like this journey of improving our spoken English
Uh-huh.
is like a mini version of personal growth.
I love that analogy.
It's about realizing that the skills we learn and the lessons we learn along the way
Mm-hmm.
can really change us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have the potential to transform us in big ways.
So for our listener who's out there working hard on their spoken English,
Yeah.
what's the main message they should take away from this deep dive?
I'd say it's a message of empowerment.
Okay.
It's a reminder that you already have everything you need to succeed.
Hmm.
The desire, the willingness to put in the work, and the courage to face those challenges along the way.
Yeah.
It's about trusting the process and being kind to yourself
Yeah.
and celebrating every step forward.
It's about shifting that focus from the destination to the journey itself.
I love that. And, maybe this deep dive into spoken English will spark something in our listener. Maybe it'll inspire them to tackle other challenges with the same courage and determination.
That would be amazing.
It's incredible how one small step can lead to those big transformations.
So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
do you have any final words of wisdom or inspiration for our listener?
Out of all the tips we've talked about today,
Yeah.
is there one that really stood out to you?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that daily practice or finding a language partner or using body language.
Yeah.
Pick one that feels right for you right now and try to make it part of your daily routine.
I like that.
Because remember, even those small, consistent actions can lead to really amazing results over time.
That's a great challenge. And to our listener,
Yeah.
we want to say thank you so much for joining us on this deep
I
dive.
appreciate you.
Keep practicing.
Yeah.
Keep experimenting.
Yeah.
And keep believing in yourself.
You got this.
You got this.